Okay, dear students, अल्टरनेटिंग करंट हमने ख़त्म कर दिया. बस एक दो लेक्चर उसका रहता है जिसमें करना है ट्रांसफार्मर and AC generator. That will do after finishing magnetism. So let us begin with magnetism lesson 1 theory. There is not much derivation in it. Very few derivations and very short derivations. So the first page is just a history of magnetism. Just go through it. Around 600 BC, before Christ was born, an ore of iron, and the formula for that is Fe3O4. This was discovered in a place called Magnesia, a place in Asia Minor in Greece. And it was found, and this piece of ore of iron, which was naturally occurring, it attracted small pieces of iron, and it was named as magnetite. So what you have to remember is Fe3O4, 600 BC. It was called magnetite. No need to remember the place of name. This is for your general knowledge only. Then what is magnetism? Now, this was observed, this piece of iron was attracting small pieces of iron, this piece iron ore. And what is magnetism? This property of attracting small bits of iron, small pieces of iron or steel or cobalt towards that particular iron ore. This particular iron ore was attracting small pieces of iron, steel or cobalt. This property of attraction was called magnetism. Now, if you naturally, natural magnets, this is a natural magnet. This Fe3O4 is a natural magnet. They have natural magnets of irregular shapes, right? A piece of iron or a steel can acquire magnetic properties on rubbing it with a magnet. If you take a piece of iron and you rub it over a magnet, suppose this is a magnet, this is a piece of iron, you rub it like this. You rub it like this for some time, then this piece of iron also becomes a magnet. So, such magnets which are produced artificially, these are called artificial magnets. For example, you must have, in your day-to-day life, you must have seen a bar magnet, that is an artificial magnet. A bar magnet looks like this. One pole is called a north pole, the other is a south pole. We will see which is a north pole, which is a south pole. A horseshoe magnet in the shape of like this is called a horseshoe magnet. And a magnetic needle. You must have seen in a compass a needle like this, which rotates horizontally in the compass. That is a compass needle. All these are, this bar magnet, horseshoe magnet, this compass needle, these are all artificial magnets. These are all artificial magnets, right? So, there is nothing much in this page. Let us go to the next page where we discuss. When iron fillings are sprinkled around a bar magnet, I'll show you in a picture. The iron fillings rearrange as shown in this picture. Now, look here. If you look here, this is a bar magnet kept on a piece of glass plate, and around it very small pieces of iron, called iron fillings were sprinkled, And those iron fillings were arranged like this, You can see these small lines, they were arranged like this, right? And you can see the concentration of those iron fillings near this end and this end is maximum. Means the strength of this magnet at this end and this end is more maximum. That is same thing as saying the piece of magnet is more strong at this point and is more strong at this point as far as attracting the iron fillings are concerned. So as far as attracting the iron fillings are concerned. Now let me take it back to the same original position. Now those this is what I'm saying. When iron fillings are sprinkled around a bar magnet, the iron fillings rearrange as shown. I showed in the figure here. Now, and what it was observed, attraction is maximum at the ends. The attraction is maximum at this end and at this end. These ends are called the poles of the magnet. One pole is called a north pole, the other is called a south pole. And what is the other conclusion? The poles always exist in pairs. Means whenever there is a magnet, there will have two poles. One is called a north pole, the other is called a south pole. Now I have taken a bar magnet here. The picture of a bar magnet. This is your bar magnet. Now here at this end the attraction was more, at this end was attraction was more. Now if I connect these two ends by a straight line like this is called the axial line of the bar magnet, and a line perpendicular to that passing through the middle of the bar magnet is called your equatorial line. Now if you look at the magnet, the physical length of the magnet is from here to here. That is from A to B. So AB is called the geographic length of the magnet. And the length from this point to this point, is called the magnetic length. From N to S is called the magnetic length, right? And the geographic length is always greater than the magnetic length, and you have to remember this thing only. Length AB is greater than length NS. Length NS, that is the magnetic length, is almost 6 by 7 times the length of the geometric length of the magnet, that is from A to B. So in this space also there is nothing much. So then coming back to magnetic north-south direction. You take a piece of bar magnet, at the middle of it tie a rope and suspend the magnet freely vertically down. So that is what I'm saying. When you suspend a magnet freely by a piece of string, the line joining the north and south is called the magnetic north and south direction. Means if you suspend this bar magnet freely, then this end of the magnet will point towards the geographic north. This end will point towards the geographic south, and this line is called the magnetic north-south line. So the line joining the N as S is called a magnetic north-south direction, right? Then comes your magnetic meridian. This will explain further as we proceed further ahead in the chapter. A vertical plane, it is a plane, not a line. A vertical plane passing through the north-south line of a freely suspended magnet is called the magnetic meridian at that place. Now, Let me explain it slightly here. This is your Earth. This point is your geographic north. This point is your geographic south. Anywhere on the surface of the Earth, if you suspend a bar magnet freely, the north pole of that bar magnet, will point to this side, and the south pole of that bar magnet will point to this side. And at that place, if there is a plane, there is a plane perpendicular to the surface of the Earth and passing through this point and this point, a plane perpendicular to the Earth's surface at that place and passing through this line, that is the line joining the north pole of the suspended bar magnet and the south pole of the suspended bar magnet. That plane is called the magnetic meridian. So I will explain further as we go forward. Now the chapter really begins from here. Very similar to electrostatics, Coulomb's law in magnetism. Now, let M1 is the pole strength of one pole, which can be a north pole, which can be a south pole. M2 is equal to pole strength of another pole. This can be a north pole, this can be a south pole. As we know, two similar poles, north and north, they repel each other. A south pole and a south pole, they also repel each other. A north pole and a south pole, they attract each other, right? So suppose M1 is pole strength of one pole, M2 is pole strength of another pole. Whether it is, if they are north and north, they repel, south and south, they repel, north and south, they attract. So whether it is a repulsion or attraction, there is a force. Let F is equal to force of attraction or repulsion between the two poles, whose pole strength is M1 and M2. Now, it is found experimentally that force of attraction or repulsion is proportional to M1, M2 and F is proportional to 1 by R square, where R is the distance between the two poles. Now, from these two, so F is proportional to M1, M2 over R square, so F is equal to some constant M1, M2 over R square. All constants, as I have told you before in physics, are found out experimentally. So your K is your magnetic force constant. Its value is equal to mu naught by 4 pi and its numerical value is 10 to the power minus 7 Weber ampere inverse meter inverse. Weber, I have told you, the unit of flux. So this is just similar to your Coulomb's law. F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. Force between two charges, force between two poles having pole strength M1 and M2. And here mu naught was, if these two charges were kept in vacuum, epsilon naught, this was in electrostatics, was the absolute permittivity of a vacuum. Here mu naught is called absolute permeability of a free space or vacuum. Here mu naught is called magnetic permeability of a free space. So F is equal to mu naught over 4 pi M1 M2 over R square. This value of constant K, this is the value of K in SI system. Its value is equal to 1 in CGS system, right? Now let us find out what is the meaning of M1 and M2. We just explained the force of attraction or repulsion between two magnetic poles. F is equal to mu naught over 4 pi M1 M2 over R square, where M1 is the pole strength of one pole, M2 is the pole strength of another pole, R is the distance between the two poles M1 and M2. Suppose in some situation the two poles are identical, having M1 M2 is equal to M. Say the pole strength is equal. and the distance between them is 1 meter, and f is equal to 10 to the power minus 7, and we just explained f is equal to mu naught over 4 pi m1 m2 over r square. I have taken r is equal to 1, so 1 square is 1, m into m square. So f is this is the value of this is 10 to the power minus 7, f is 10 to the power minus 7. So this cancels, so m square is equal to 1, which implies m is equal to plus or minus 1. And the unit of pole strength is ampere meter. This is what you have to remember. So what is the conclusion? Strength of a magnetic pole is 1 ampere meter, magnetic pole 1 ampere meter, if it repels an equal and similar pole. If it repels an equal and similar pole, I have taken them equal. If it repels an equal and similar pole with a force of 10 to the power minus 7 Newton, if the distance between them is 1 meter and is kept in a vacuum or air. So that is the meaning of pole strength. Now, which will be further cleared as we proceed further in the chapter. Now I have to explain few diagrams, right? I have to explain few diagrams. Now here I have shown this is a piece of magnet. This end was initially south pole, this end was initially north pole. Suppose you break this magnet at this end, at this point and this point, right? Then you will have three pieces, one piece, second piece, third piece, and you will find for this piece, this end was south, this remains as south. At this broken end, this becomes north. For this one, this becomes south, this becomes north. For this end, this side was already north and this remains as north, this becomes south. Means when you break it into three pieces or four pieces, if you break into three pieces, you get three individual magnets. If you break it into four pieces, you will get four individual magnets. Now here, same thing I am showing. Here is a bar magnet. This is the north pole of the magnet. This is the south pole of the magnet. This is the line joining the south and north. So this is called your axial line of the magnet, right? Then this 2L is equal to length of the magnet from here to here. And now look, this is a bar magnet suspended freely along vertically down. This is your x dash axis. This is your magnetic. I am going to explain what is magnetic meridian. So this line is your axial line, right? Now this plane shown dotted, it is like this. It is passing through this axial line and perpendicular to the plane of the magnet is called your magnetic meridian. Now then comes now here is a magnet suspended freely, here is another. The same magnet is suspended. Here I bring the north pole of one magnet. So this north pole is pushed to this side. So it will rotate. So it will rotate like this. Here the south pole comes to this side. South-south repulsion. So this rotates like this. This is suspended magnet. Here the south pole of this magnet that you are holding, you bring it near the north pole. The north pole is attracted. So it will rotate like this. Now then comes your magnetic field lines. Look, which I have already explained in magnetic effects of current. This red line shows a bar magnet. This end is the south pole of a magnet. This end is the north pole of a magnet. These are the magnetic field lines around it. Means, what do you mean by magnetic field lines? If you keep a unit north pole here it will move along this path. If you keep it here, it will move along this path. If you keep it here, it will move along this path. If you keep it here, it will move along this path. If you keep it here, it will move along this path. It will move along this path. It will move along this path. these lines are actually continuous lines passing through the magnet. Each line is passing through the magnet. If you keep the unit north pole here, it will move along this path. So the path along which a unit north pole moves when kept near another magnet is called the magnetic lines of force. They are originating from north, passing like this, passing through the south and within the magnet also. I have shown it in a plane. The lines of force are here also, to this side also, and and below the magnet also. It is all around the magnet. These are the magnetic lines of force for a solenoid which behaves as a magnet that I have already explained in magnetic effects of current. These are the electric field lines for a minus charge. This is a positive charge. This was explained in electrostatics. Means if you take a unit positive charge, the path along which it moves is called a electric field line. Then how do we represent magnetic field lines? If the magnetic field lines are represented like this, look, here the distance between each line is fixed and the direction is fixed. So this diagram represents a uniform magnetic field B pointing to this side. Means on this side there is a north pole and on this side there is a south pole, right? The direction is fixed. Here these crosses indicate the magnetic field lines are into the plane of the paper and the distance between them are equally spaced. So this is also uniform. Means the magnitude is constant and the direction is fixed. Here these dots indicate the magnetic field lines are pointing outward from the plane of the paper and the distance between them is fixed and the direction is fixed. So this is also uniform magnetic field. This is also uniform magnetic field. This magnetic field is pointing this side. This uniform magnetic field is pointing into the plane of the paper. This magnetic field is pointing vertically outward from the plane of the paper. Now look here, this magnetic field is not uniform. The direction is same, but the lines are not equally spaced. Means this is a non-uniform magnetic field. Direction is constant, but the magnitude is different. Magnitude here is more, magnitude here is less. Because if you consider a unit area here and unit area here, the number of lines of force passing through here is more, here is less. Means the strength of the magnetic field here is more, here is less. So therefore it is not uniform. This is also a non-uniform magnetic field because the directions are different here. The directions are different and the spacing is also different. Here it is more concentrated, here it is less concentrated. So the strength of the field here is more, here is less. So this is also non-uniform magnetic field. Similarly here, the directions are different. And the spacing between them is also not constant. Means here the field strength is more, here the field strength is less. So in the next lesson, we will go to derivations which are important for magnetism. That is, we will find out magnetic field on the axial line of a dipole like we did in electrostatics. Similarly, we will find out magnetic fields on the equatorial line of a dipole. We will find out when a magnet is kept in a uniform magnetic field, it also experiences a torque. Like your electric dipole was kept in electric field, it was experiencing a torque, and so on.